very loving. The pastor of the church was very loving to me. He didn't judge me, and that was a big help for me to finally get my life back on track. But it took a couple of years before that,
Yeah.
before I really was like, you know what, this is it. And in that process, that's how gang come about. After I stopped pastoring at the church that I grew up in, I was sitting in the back of the church, and I was like, how can I help other young guys that probably feel the same way I felt? There's nobody that understands me.
Right.
And if I told them, then they're going to try to tell me what I need to do without hearing me out or judging me. And so I was like, what can I create? And then I thought about gentlemen and not gangsters. I said, you know what?
So that is what gang stands for. Because I know when I put it out there, people are probably like, okay, is this a show about gangs? Is this a show about... So one more time.
Gentlemen and not gangsters.
Gentlemen and not gangsters is the definition of gang. And a lot of people need to know that there is somebody there for you as far as like a mentorship or, with girls, a lot of women are embarrassed. So you don't really just go, and I'm pretty sure guys are the same way. Yeah. But when you find that person like you that's like, brother, I've been there. I know what you're going through. You can probably smell it on them. You can probably see it. You can see it in their eyes because you once were them. That was you once upon a time. Do you feel that our city is doing enough to curb the violence amongst the youth at this present time?
I think they have made some okay steps, but they hadn't done enough that they could do to help curb some of the violence and some of the things that's going on with our youth. One big thing that they hate to be brought up in conversation is when you all going to start pouring some money into programs to help be able to curb some of this youth violence that we see. And they hate to talk about the issue because they really don't want to pour money in there. And Judge Calloway said something very profound one year, and she spoke at the Martin Luther King event they had at TSU probably about 3 years ago. And she said that whenever there was a crack cocaine problem, they poured money into it with rehabs and all of this stuff to help them get off the drugs and stay clean. When there was an opioid problem, they poured all this money into that, making sure that people get off the drug, making sure that they stay clean. But now that we have an issue with our kids, they don't want to reach back and pour money into our kids.
Into the kids.
And it's going to take
And why
money.
do you think that is? Do you think it's because, I'm going to just put it out there because that's me and that's what I do. It's almost like they said they build the projects so they can put us in the projects so we can destroy ourselves. Do you think that it's kind of like, well, we ain't going to put money in something because they're just going to continue to do what it is we're trying to stop them to do. So we might as well just let them do it and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, they make more money off of them being locked up than they do.
Well,
being out,
yeah.
So they're building prisons. Every time you look up, they popping up.
Yeah.
And you take one kid just to be in juvenile is like $90-some a day, versus them being out. People are making good money off of this. So in one way, they just do enough to make it seem like they care. But we just living in a crazy society where, it's almost like your back is up against the wall no matter what you try to do. But I really most definitely think that they could do a whole lot more. But there are some great programs and organizations out there that's doing a lot of groundwork that nobody really talk about or you don't hear a lot about.
Now, do you think that if you are not in the politic field, because politicians play a big role in everything that moves in every which way. And it's like you talked about the prison. I looked it up, but I can't really remember. On each body that's in the prison, that's a big paycheck.
Yeah.
So when you think about just sending somebody to prison over getting them help, you're going to make some money or you're going to help this person. So if you have the wrong politics in the way, then that's what we're going to get. The prisons are going to stay full. The prisons are going to stay over full. So do you think a man such as yourself, and I'm pretty sure you have some politicians on your side, do you think that is important for you to keep those right people on your side in the walk that you're trying to walk, which is to get more funding, to get your program out do you think that that's an important thing to have the right politicians on your side?
Yeah, you need the right people in place. I always tell everybody we all are a piece of the puzzle, and if we can put all our pieces together, we can be able to solve a lot of things, that's going on. And a lot of them are a voice for me in places that I can't be a voice for myself at,
Yeah.
So they're able to eat at tables I'm not welcomed at. And so it's very important for me to keep those relationships, for them to be able to help me get some things going and help me catapult the game program in a place. Because if you really look at our program, we don't have any funding. We hadn't been funding since we've been doing this for 10 years.
Wow.
And we've been going off of donations. It's just a blessing that people will see us on the news or hear about the program and they want to play a part in helping, so they'll donate money, which help us do a lot with them, and that's been a blessing. But, the grants, they don't give the grants to the grassroots organizations like they do these big organizations. And the big organizations do work with kids, but it's not the kids that you see on the news.
Right. It's not the kids that are, and that's my next question was going to be something, in relates to that. Now, in relation to that, so do you feel that a violent crime that a teenager commits should be the same as adults? I'm not going to say minor, I'm going to say teenager. Let's just say if a teenager goes out and do something, do you think that they should be tried as an adult?
Well, when there's a thing that's out, and psychologists know about it, where it talks about the front part of your brain, helps you make great choices and your thinking. Kids have not fully developed in that area to really make some of the choices that they need to make. And what we see these kids doing is only what they think is cool, what they hear in the songs, or what they see on TV. They don't know the severity of what they're doing when they take somebody's life. This child not able to come back no more because they dead. The stuff they putting their family and friends through, and the stuff they putting themselves through because they're gonna be locked up for a while. So I don't think locking all of them up in the adult system really will help them, because now you think you got a 15, 16-year-old child that's going to be locked up with grown men that's been in there 30 years. It's only going to make them worse, or they'll wind up killing themselves in there because they're gonna be taken advantage of while they're there. You take me, when I went to prison, it's stuff that I think about to this day. That stuff don't leave me. Hearing grown men cry for help, but because another man is raping them and all that. You don't forget stuff like that. Sitting at the chow table, making sure that you pay attention enough because you don't want nobody to come by and shank you or anything.
Right.
That's stuff that you don't never forget. And it ruins a person's mentality, mental state, I would say, when you go through stuff like that. So I don't always think locking everybody up is the answer. But I do believe in getting people treatment, because one thing in the black community that we don't like to talk about
is a psychiatrist.
Mental health issues.
We don't like to go see shrinks either.
Yeah, and a lot of these kids got some mental health issues. Yeah.
Do you think that that's because we don't really believe in it? Can't nobody sit at the end of the table and tell me what to do?
Yeah.
How often do you hear that? I ain't going to see nobody. How somebody going to tell me how to live my life? And how somebody going to, okay, let me say this. So if a 16-year-old rob and murder somebody, do you think that 16-year-old needs to stand up in front of a judge as an adult? I just asked you, but I'm going to tell you why I asked you that. Or do you think that, okay, we need to get him, like you said, some help? Or do you think he should be a certain time of prison term? Not just like life, but do you think that, hey, you did the crime, you got to do the time, not just counseling?
I believe that they should do some time. I don't think they should just let them back out because they did take a life. But they should have a place for them to go to that will help all of their needs that they have. Because when you look at the adult childhood experiences, the ACEs, dealing with kids that have had traumatic experiences in their life is the reason why they act out in certain ways that they do. When we look at a child that's been molested or that's been beaten real bad, mentally that puts them into a certain place. And if you don't know how to address those issues within the mindset of that child, then that child mindset will only get worse, which will cause them to do some stuff that they shouldn't do. So to lock them up for that is the wrong treatment. The right treatment is to put them into a facility that will help them address some of the issues that they've been having through the course of their life. Because you'd be surprised what some of these kids go through and what they see. You know, as an adult, if we seen a grown person standing by us get shot in the head, that will affect us mentally. Yeah. Can you imagine a 14, 15, 16-year-old child getting used to seeing kids, chests being blown out, heads being blown off? That's a lot for these kids to take in, and I don't think the treatment that they should get would be being in prison for the rest of their life. I think their treatment should be getting some help to help them address some issues that nobody has addressed. You know, man, and that's for the kids. Now, you take some adults, they got these issues, but, you know, they adults, ain't too much you can really do about it. But those things need to be addressed within these youth that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, and that's why I asked you, because I wanted to get your mindset on it. And so, what impact do you feel that the partners? What impact do you feel that gang? And sometimes you do partner with other people. You partner with the partners of the struggle. What impact do you feel that you guys have on the community?
Partners in the Struggle is a great organization to where mothers that children have been gunned down in the streets, senseless murders, you know, it helps the mothers be able to cope with what they're going through, because that's a hard thing to lose a child. Yeah. And Earl Jordan does a great job with having therapeutic sessions with them, just that support, being able to keep the story alive for some of these mothers of saying, hey, they hadn't caught the killer, but I'm here, I need justice for my child. He helps become that voice to keep that story out there so they can get justice. And it's a great, great, great organization, you know, and with the gang program of what we're doing with the juveniles, we're trying to cut everything off. You know, we're not, you know, we've been tied in with juvenile court for 5 years. 2 years being in there with them, we cut back on the rate of repeat offenders as juveniles. And so they created a whole new court called GRIP. It's the Gang Resistance Intervention Prevention Court. That court only exists because of our gang program. Wow. And it is the first program to exist in the United States. So they won an award about 3 years ago in Chicago for being the first state in the United States to ever have a juvenile gang court. And so to address the issues and try to help them that way, we do. But also we try to be preventive to stop kids from being on probation or going to detention. So we are in schools, we're in the housing communities, mentoring, and we're trying to catch the problem before we get there. And with a program like that, mentoring and challenging them, we got a slogan. We said, if we can change your mind, we can change your grind. I mean, everybody got a grind in life. It's just how you mentally go about getting your grind on. And that's what we pretty much do. We get in their heads, try to change the way they think, the way they see things, the way they observe things.
So you don't necessarily have to be in the system to be a part of gang. Is that?
Yeah. No, you don't have to be.
So anybody can be a part of gang if they need that mentorship. Yes. If it is something that they're not getting wherever they are, home, grandparents, wherever it is, because that's like you just to backtrack a little bit, you talked about how if you're a child and you're witnessing maybe abuse, you know, like you did, or you're witnessing somebody's always getting murdered, you're in the worst part of town, every time you turn around somebody's robbing dead bodies, or you are a young lady and you're getting sexually assaulted. Well, the justice system don't really care about that, per se. If you can, you know, if you look back over the times and the histories, the justice system will look at you as, and I'm going to throw this out there too, where you live, your color sometimes, and your upbringing. And a lot of that, I think, falls into play with our young men. You walking in this courtroom, your pants are sagging, you ain't got no home training, nobody taught you to say yes ma'am, no sir, you know, and then now you're caught up in the system, and every time they see you, Whether you it's stereotype, should I say? Everybody is stereotyped. So I guess